Hello and welcome to the Keep It Local Maine podcast, where we tell the stories of local business owners and Maine residents and learn more about what they do, who and what inspires them, their challenges, successes, and more. My name is Todd Regalinski.
And I am Kimberly Regalinski.
And we are the publishers of Keep It Local Maine, a local magazine that helps to showcase local businesses to the people in and around their communities. Thank you for tuning in to our weekly podcast that you can subscribe to on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can learn more about us at keepitlocalmaine.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram through the links in the show notes. In this episode, we'll be talking with Rachel Reed.
Rachel Reed is the co-owner of ReMax Shoreline, a local real estate company, and is also the wife of the late David Reed, a Portland psychologist who passed away suddenly almost 6 years ago. Rachel has always been involved in her community. She currently serves on the board of directors of TruChoice Federal Credit Union, the Maine Jewish Film Festival, the Falmouth Cumberland Community Chamber of Commerce, and the American Lung Association. She has been a contributing writer of Maine REALTOR Magazine, New Hampshire REALTOR Magazine, and other local publications. She is here today, however, as the owner of Somniskills, the company which she founded with her late husband David to distribute the Somniskills Workbook, which he had just finished writing a few weeks before his untimely death. Welcome to the show, Rachel. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I actually kind of want to start off with a little bit of a kind of the intro off your website. I just want to read that for folks because I think that it explains it much better than I could in my own words. So let me just read a little bit of this. So it starts off with a great quote from Dale Carnegie. If you can't sleep, then get up and do something instead of lying there worrying. It's the worry that gets you, not the lack of sleep.
Exactly.
So, and then it goes on to say Carnegie's quote taps into the heart of the matter. Worry about sleep. The worry so many people know all too well, lying in bed, hoping and struggling to fall asleep. Sometimes it is more than worry. Sometimes it is panic due to the feeling out of control, panic about the dire consequences if you keep missing out on sleep. So I think that what we really want to know is what is Somniskills and how does it benefit people?
So Somniskills was the sleep practice that Dave had set up. I think back as early as 2006 or 7 to address sleep matters such as this. He called the practice Somniskills, and he tried many different ways of working with people. I think he even briefly at one point tried a group approach, but he quickly realized the degree to which sleep was not as elusive as people actually feel like it is when they're going through this, and that it really wasn't that difficult to get somebody on track. So as a sleep psychologist, Dave would come into the picture when people had been screened already for physiological reasons that they may be having trouble with sleep. And those that had no physiological cause for their lack of sleep or sleep issues would then see a sleep psychologist. And so usually Dave could alleviate somebody's sleep problems relatively quickly because he had really been able to sort of focus in on those things that made the biggest difference to the most people. And I think that for him, it was so wonderful to have found an effective way to address this with people. So around 2009, he started writing a book because what he realized was that there was nothing like that on the market that really, truly could aid people through cognitive behavioral therapy to resolve their sleep matters, either on their own or with the assistance of a primary care physician or a social worker or a psychologist who had not yet been trained in sleep. But he felt that it was possible to put this together in a book and make it available to people so that they could more easily help themselves than was currently, was currently possible.
That's awesome. So one of the questions I have, and first off, I just want to say our condolences.
Oh, thanks.
We hope that this I was really excited to do this podcast because we hope that this is going to help to bring honor to your husband and his work that he did.
Thank you.
And his legacy, and to honor to you as well. So my question is I noticed that he finished the book.
Yeah.
It was a few weeks before his death.
Right.
What was the process of actually getting the book finished and getting it to, to market? I mean, what was that process like?
So as you said, just weeks before his passing, he had been working with a close colleague of many years named Bill Sacco, and they had just completed their final draft of this book and had submitted an abstract to the Journal of Sleep Medicine. And he had worked on the book on his own for about 4 years. So from like 2009 to 2013, I think. And at around that point, he made the decision to call Bill Sacco, who had been his major professor during his PhD studies, because he felt that Bill was so capable of bringing projects to finish, which is a really hard thing for any PhD student to be doing, is getting your project finished is always, a huge milestone. And Bill Sacco had seen people through that process for decades. And Dave said, I know we've got to get this wrapped up at this point. And I know the person that can help me with that is Bill. So about a year prior to his passing, he and Bill Sacco had started working together on the book. And so what happened was Dave passed away in the dead of winter, and his funeral ended up being in the middle of a huge storm, of course, right? And somehow Bill Sacco made it to that funeral with just, a couple of days notice, and all the way from Florida. Somehow Bill got there. And he said to me at the time, he said, Rachel, don't worry. I will work with you to finish the book. And in reality, he said, Eileen and I, his wife Eileen, and I will work with you to help you finish the book. And I was very traumatized. Dave's death was an incredible shock because he was one of those larger than life people who lived with so much joy each day. And he was in fantastic physical shape. And having him suddenly pulled from us was the last thing in the world that we had ever expected. And so, and it was also a very difficult death to witness. And so our immediate family and friends were truly traumatized, including, I'm sure, Bill. But for the next, I would say, at least 4 years of the 5 years it took to do this, Bill and Eileen spearheaded this effort. And I will never be able to thank them enough, because I'm just at the point this past year or so where I've been able to really grapple with some of, picking up Dave's materials and feeling comfortable opening up computer files. I had everything taken care of immediately upon his passing, but I had never actually opened the files. And so this was to be honest, there's a degree to which this past year of working with Bill and Eileen to bring some finish to the book and get it totally launched has been very therapeutic for me. But it's truly Bill's perseverance and his guidance and Eileen's partnership with Bill in terms of Eileen's background is in education, and also I believe she has a reading specialization. And so her help was insurmountable, because the goal was to ensure that the book was readable on almost any level. And so she put tremendous effort into that. And Bill had published textbooks, or I should say professional books, prior. And so he was aware of what was necessary to where does this start and how does it end? And Bill really took the reins in this regard and explained that the first thing that we had to do was wait for the abstract to be published. That took a long time. I think that took about a year and a half from the time that Bill and Dave had submitted their abstract to the point that it was actually published. I believe it was somewhere around the beginning of 2017 that the abstract was published, which sort of put their name on the map in terms of sleep science. And so then when we got that publication through, Bill said, now we can really take on the book. And then so for the next 2 to 3 years, Bill and Eileen worked on that pretty much without my input, as I sort of just tried to see my children through to a new life and you know, got everybody off to college and driving lessons and SATs and all of that, you know, usual parenting stuff, which I have to say, you know, a lot of times people say, congratulations that you were able to make all of that happen. I have to say that if it weren't for coming from an amazing family with a very supportive network and being in an amazing community here in Southern Maine, I think whenever we accomplish anything, we have to realize that we're standing on a lot of other shoulders to get there.
Oh, that's good.
There's no such thing as doing it yourself. I don't believe, at least I cannot say that there's anything that I have done by myself. It's all been on shoulders. And, you know, and so my hope is that I can pass that effort forward, you know? And so for me, the book is, in part, it's a true tribute to Dave and his work, and it's everything that he would have wanted. The book is largely his playbook for how he got people better. And it really is, it's just awesome. And I also do it with tremendous gratitude to Bill Sacco. And I do it because, and we've tried very hard to price it so that it's very available, because Dave was not expecting to make money from this. Dave was hoping to help people with this. So right now, the Kindle version is actually available on Amazon for free for like another 60 days.
Wow.
So, you know, we've done everything possible to make the book accessible.
That's great. And I really like the fact that it is titled, or is, I'm probably using the wrong words here, but it's framed as a workbook.
Yes.
And that, because I think there's a lot of things that you can read that are like, oh, hey, you have a problem, and here's what that problem is, and can talk about the problem, but it doesn't actually help you work through it. It kind of just gives you, oh, and here's the background of the problem, and here's what you're going through. Oh, that's great. Now what do I do?
Right.
And then you end of the book going, oh, and where do we go from here? I like the idea that this is a workbook, and it seems very practical, a practical way to kind of help get yourself through this and get some kind of answers, or to help improve things by virtue of going through the book.
Yeah.
And I imagine that either was that kind of the way that David was, as just a very practical person, or was it as a result of the treatment plan that he had?
That's, David, what David, I think, was really his genius was to be able to take the foundation of science that was his background and solidify for people the steps necessary to resolve their problems in a practical way. You know, I think a phrase that I would hear from his mouth frequently was, it's really very simple. And he knew how to get anything into simple, whether it was packing for a ski trip or how to resolve your sleep problems. Dave could make it simple, everything got boiled down to steps, and, it was always easy to accomplish then.
I love that.
It is really hard to make things simple.
Exactly.
It is so much work and thought that goes into making something simple. It's real easy to make it complex. Human beings are great at that.
Right.
I myself am very proficient at it. I can make any problem into a big mess.
Right.
But to actually get something to be simple so that someone else can understand it and digest it and work through that without years and years and years of experience and learning in classrooms and all that is really that's a huge skill and a real tribute to his thought process and just his own thoughtfulness in in getting this out there.
Yeah, it was really important to him. You know, he had specialties that really dovetailed nicely with sleep because, as you said, that quote from the beginning really indicates the degree to which what happens with sleep is anxiety about not getting sleep. And panic and anxiety were areas of his practice that were not only highly specialized, but they were also highly effective. Dave was able to take on panic and anxiety disorders, and a few sessions later have somebody doing what they never thought they'd ever be able to do in their life. It was a real gift of his. And so it really dovetailed nicely with sleep medicine. And I think what Dave came to realize over time was that there could really be a method, that there could really be a way, an effective way to approach these types of problems for people, especially in the area of sleep.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And sleeping as important as it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that can be life-changing.
Life-changing, yeah.
For people.
Sure. So, Rachel, let me ask you this. What would you say is your hope and your your dream for this book?
I guess my dream for this book is that it truly is effective at helping people and that it finds its way to healthcare providers that can then also assist their patients and clients to achieve better sleep. Because as Dave used to say, he used to, quite honestly, his phrase would be something sometimes when it came to sleep, he'd say, it's just not rocket science. It's not. He said, it's a few simple things. And the real devil is the discipline, is the other thing that he would say, is that having the discipline to get through this process is the real challenge. Everything about it, there's nothing else that's challenging about it. It's the discipline.
Yeah, that's great.
And that was something that he was a master of and he could inspire people to be disciplined, that's a pretty cool thing, you know? And because the reality is that when it comes to behavior, human behavior, changing human behavior requires discipline. And when people aren't able to harness that, they are much less likely to be, effective.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's come across in a lot of the episodes that we've been recording and putting out there lately. Is another author that we had just talked to that, talked about, getting your butt in the chair and writing. That's the way that you write, and that's something that I remember reading, from Stephen King, that's his thing, is you just sit your butt in the chair and you write. That's the way that you're going to get it done. And from business owners as well, that, the way to get the work done is you put in the work.
Yes.
You get to work.
Yeah.
And having that discipline to do those things is really the key. And that's a huge part of it. And I mean, it makes total sense that it's the same in sleep. It's just, and sometimes we just need someone to point that out and say, it's really simple. Oh, I'm making it way too hard.
Right. Well, I think, why is it so hard to have discipline? It's hard because the overall process seems overwhelming. And so I think this isn't something Dave used to say, but something that I frequently find myself saying to people in different parts of my life. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's where the workbook concept really comes in, is, it enables you to take it on one bite at a time, because digesting that one bite isn't hard. It's the concept of digesting the whole elephant that's hard. But you don't have to do it all at once.
Yep. And kind of dovetailing into discipline, I mean, in your bio, you're involved in a lot of things, a lot of boards, a lot of activities. How do you manage and prioritize your time?
Yeah. Tell
So
us.
I actually coach people on this in parts of my life, and it's different for each person, I believe. But for me, the most effective thing is time blocking. I block out time starting, and don't laugh, I start at about 5 a.m. each morning, and I end at about 10 p.m. each night. And so I try to have 7 hours of sleep, which really works well for me. And I've never been somebody that chilled very well. You know what I mean? Like I quickly need something to do. I've always been that way. And even when I was really young, I was very frustrated. I'll never forget this. I was very frustrated when I started first grade and they didn't assign homework. And I said,
wow, that's ambition right there.
I know, just sick, right? Like, what's wrong with this child? And so I came home very frustrated to my mom, and I said, they still haven't assigned homework. And my mom said, well, you have all your life to work, Rachel. Maybe you can do something fun. And I said, how am I supposed to get better at reading and writing if I don't have homework? And she said, well, okay. And so she had to structure that for me, okay, well, let's do some reading. And she ended up getting copies of textbooks from, friends that were in education that had access to first grade reading books and things like that, and she had to always have something for me to do because I think my mom, unfortunately for her, she was a rather sort of a low energy person, and she got harnessed with me as her child, And so if left to my own desires, I would find a project, which usually meant a really big cleanup for her. So she started structuring my time at a really young age. Like I was horseback riding at 3.5 because I had already beaten her to the stables, which were like down the road. She got a call from the woman that owned Shoestring Stables in Middletown, New Jersey, who said, I believe your 3-year-old is here at the stable.
Wow.
And she'd be like, oh my God, and she'd go running down there to get me. And after it happened a couple of times, the stable owner said, I think your daughter's really attracted to horses. Do you want her to start riding? And my mom was like, yeah, if it would help me with this, it would be fine. So I started, I think, horseback riding at 3.5. I started modern dance by the time I was 5. Basically, she made sure that every day after school I had something because otherwise she just couldn't keep up with me. So that's just, I think, part of my nature.
Yeah.
So just to kind of go back to the time blocking thing.
Yeah.
What are your increments of time? Like what do you do every 15 minutes, every half hour, every hour?
I'm an hour person. I find that there's always time necessary to transition and there's always need for a bio break here and there. So if I just block by hour, I do pretty well. And you're going to die. Okay. So I use color coding also on my Google Calendar. So, and I share different pieces of it with different people. And so my office always sees my office work, and other members of my family can see sort of my personal schedule. And then I can see our team schedule for the office, and I have my agent on call schedule. I have my business partners. I have each of their schedules. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I have probably 10 colors going on my calendar.
Wow.
But it works for me.
Yeah, totally. I tried doing the time blocking thing, and it didn't necessarily work out as well for me. I'm more of a to-do list person, and that seems to help me wrangle my time a little bit, because if I get stopped, I can always look at the list and go, okay, there's got to be something on here I can do next.
Exactly. So, I do utilize a to-do list also. Yep.
Oh, good.
Yeah, definitely. And because that way, if there's a change in my time, I can pick up and figure out what needs to happen, and I can prioritize my time. That's really important. As you're planning your time, it's really important to be able to recognize what your priorities for the day will need to be.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I imagine it's essential because, like we said, you're involved in a lot of different things.
Right.
If you didn't plan, I can imagine that just getting
absolutely
really crazy really fast.
Yeah.
Right. And it's important to accomplish what you set out to do, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, why do it?
Right. Exactly.
Rachel, how do you define success, whether it's in business or in life? How do you define success?
That's a really interesting question. Wow. I define success as having taken care of my family,
Mm-hmm.
other people who are close to me, such as my business partner, and my community. Like, if I can effectively ensure that at the end of each day, I have done my best to see us through to a better situation than we started with,
Mm-hmm.
that for me is success.
Mm.
That's great.
That's great. I love that.
I might steal that.
I know. I love that.
No
I love that.
copyright on that.
I love that. No, it's just it's so true. I mean, everybody has that ability to be successful in saying that. I mean, we have the ability to, sow into our families, our business life, and then in our community, and that's just such a beautiful picture of success.
Yeah.
Well, because especially here in Maine, your business life is usually a part of your community. We're all so closely intertwined. And I think that the other thing that I always try to recognize is that, like, we each come into this world with a set of gifts. We come into the world with a certain amount of time, talent, and treasure over which we have literally no say, right? So what I always have, what I taught my children, what I've always tried to remember myself is, if you're attractive, if you're physically attractive, well, good for you, but that was given to you for your birthday. You're either born with that, or, you can do your best to optimize what you have, but it is what it is, right? If you're wealthy, most of the time, a lot of what either was there or set you up to have it was given to you for your birthday. People's socioeconomic class is a huge impact on them, and they're born into it. And sometimes they're able to elevate, but just if you're not able to elevate, it doesn't mean you did something wrong, right? So again, it's pretty much out of one's control a lot of the time. If you're intelligent, well, that's fantastic. Hopefully you'll optimize it and use it for good, but it was given to you on your birthday, So what is the one thing you can do each day that is totally out of your own desire? And that is to be a good person, to be an effective person. That's what you have in your control every day when you wake up in the morning.
I love that.
And so I try to really focus on that. I'm not going to try to be something I'm not. I'm going to try to optimize what I have and do my best to do good each day.
I love that.
So that really feeds into, I guess, my concept of success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of what this book was about, was what, there's very little you can do for somebody when they've passed away. The last sort of physical rite is giving them a proper burial. Beyond that, I've just done anything I possibly can think of to not only honor David, but fulfill his wishes on the planet. When we had to say goodbye to him, I doubt that he could hear me any longer. But I said to him, I know you have to go. Just understand, a part of you stays with me, and a part of each of us goes with you. We will always be with you. And I truly meant it. So the part of David that stays with me, I still have to act upon because he deserved it. Nobody could have deserved it more, So, while I can't do anything about the fact that he will have missed so much of his children growing up and so many other achievements that he would have enjoyed on this planet, I can do everything in my power to make them happen. And so this book is part of that for me. And I never could have gotten anywhere with it were it not for Bill and Eileen Sacco.
That is absolutely amazing and beautiful.
I need a tissue. I need tissues. This is just, it's an inspiration.
Yeah, that
it's an inspiration, and it's just such an honor to be able to get this, to help get this story out there.
Thank you for what you'll be doing to have this book available to people.
Thank you for being here and for talking with us, because this has really been special for us. This is, as Kim said, inspiring.
It's so inspiring. Inspiring.
And please know, if there's ever, and please let it be known publicly, if there's ever a situation where somebody needs this book and can't afford it, I will give them a copy. Easy. I know that Dave would have. Dave, if it were in my power, I would give it away. But unfortunately, there's, publishing costs. So
that's so awesome.
That's all we're trying to do. And if anybody needs a copy of it, I will give it to them.
Amazing.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much.
And so for folks who are listening, when this goes live, this will still be available on Amazon. The Kindle version will still be available for free for a bit longer.
Yep.
So definitely go to Amazon and check that out. And we'll have links to the Somniskills website, which will give you a way to go and purchase the book or to get it for free on Kindle for a limited time. And again, thank you so much, Rachel,
for being with us, Rachel.
For being with us and sharing with us.
Yes.
And we wish you success and peace with this book. And this is a beautiful tribute to your husband.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for this. Thank you for this opportunity.
It's going to change pleasure. Many lives, I'm sure.
I hope so.